Cool. Welcome to Denby Does Dharma. I'm joined by pretty much two of my favourite people on the whole world, Izzy and Adrian from Pureheart Alchemy. Welcome, guys. Beautiful to see you both. I have lots of conversations with you guys about all sorts of amazing things, and it's just such a pleasure to be able to actually share your work now on this in this forum, in this format, and to help educate people more about the plants, plant medicine, ritual connected to plants, the power of plant energy and plant spirit in our lives, which so many people have been connecting to in the last couple of years for sure, and certainly in ceremonies and rituals and gatherings, not just around Australia but around the world. So we're very, very blessed to have these two amazing beings speaking about what they love and basically how they're living their mission and serving and living in service with the plants in this way. So welcome, Izzy and Adrian.
Thank you.
Thank you. We were giggling before how they've got a pink background and I've got a green background. I normally have a different background, normally just into the back view of my living room, but I changed it to this one today just to bring a bit of greenery in homage to the plants through the back window there. But we've got green and pink, which is the heart energy, which is beautiful, the two colours of the heart. And you've got the beautiful pink heart on that scribe behind you. So it's all perfect. It's all divinely aligned from that heart space. So,
and hilariously, it's actually copper brown. So it's, you know,
all right.
Computers. We've all got slight, I don't know.
It's like a dusty pink. It looks kind of like a dusty pink sort of color. So it's perfect with my curtains like this greeny color. So yeah, I love how that synchronicity always happens. So let's start with you, Izzy, my love. Your journey has been an interesting one with not just medicine, but with yoga and all the different therapies that you've been studying for quite a while. And you're like all of us, you know, a work in progress. And it's so beautiful to be, you know, witnessing your transformations as you're witnessing mine as well, because we're all close friends and supporting you in that and being supportive of myself. So it's such a blessing to be able to share this work that both of you do with everybody, because I'm always so honored whenever I either purchase or am gifted one of your gorgeous products, and they've made such a difference to my life as well. Before doing this interview this morning, I was thinking, how did I actually come across you guys in the beginning? And you guys might remember the exact moment, but I remember over 20 years ago, I was just making up my own mists in just, you know, recycled bottles with essential oils and putting them in some, you know, filtered water and spritzing them over my yoga students. And, you know, that was okay. It served a purpose and it was relaxing and it was good for the olfactory system. But somebody told me about you guys one day. They either came to class and they had one of your mists in their bag, or they told me, oh, you should check out these guys. And I remember going onto your website then and just being blown away, and just was like, because people were saying, oh, you should make these mists yourself, Denby. And I was like, I don't have the time or the inclination or the skill to do that. And I remember seeing your stuff and just going, there's no way I can compete with this. There's no way. This is like next level spritz in a bottle. It's so much more than that. And then, of course, I got in contact with you and I bought, I think, your entire range and have been doing so for several years since. So how did you guys meet as well, in a short synopsis of what drew you to one another?
We met in a rose garden.
Yeah.
There you go.
How could it be any more romantic than that?
It's quite a gospel rose garden, but it was, it was all in bloom all the same, you know.
It was either that or the jungle or something else.
I know friends that have met there, so yeah. And
yeah, right.
Incredibly, yeah, what an amazing place to meet and take the relationship in such a conscious way. Yeah, we met in a rose garden at an event. And I just remember we were in a circle, and I just remember going, who's that? And we had lunch together, and yeah, he had very intriguing stories, and I was just led immediately into, I want to see your place. He was talking about plants and sacred geometry and all sorts of mysterious, mystical, magical things, and drew me in immediately. And so, so it started where it's going now. I mean, because that's his life. His life has been plants for a long time. So mine too, but not in this super conscious way until I met Adrian. So it's been a really healing journey for me to come into contact with him and join in this amazing path that we have. Yeah.
Isn't that just divine synchronicity though? That's the perfect thing of just like meeting over the rose bushes, and you've already got this love of plants and you're into all that stuff, and he's like the quintessential plant shaman that just happens to be at the same gathering as you. And I always joke about you, Adrian, that and I say this with complete no, is that I always smell Adrian before I see him, like before he comes into a room, because he's got his little hip flask with his mist on his in his little belt that he's got, and he's constantly, you smell fantastic. You are a living, walking, breathing expression of plant medicine. So yeah, I love that, and people always laugh and say that's said with love, of course, but the journey for you, obviously that was 7 years ago, was it 7 or 8 years ago when you first met?
Yeah, 8 years ago when we met, and so, but he's been doing this for about 15 or 16.
Yeah. So Adrian, you had the business sort of established at that point then, or was it just in its fledgling stage?
Yeah, I mean, probably I was just gathering the plethora of information and my deeper connection. Yeah, it was evolving. It was evolving, sometimes unbeknownst to me. It was just, happening, synchronistically. But yeah, meeting Izabella, then she, because of her graphic artist, she's an artist, she's a painter. Just the little elements that come together. It's, to ignite such a, I don't know, almost a combustible sort of time, when, just, I don't know, and it's alignment,
Yeah, no, exactly.
I saw it as this rough diamond, and with all my I studied graphics at TAFE, and I have just sort of a multitude of different jobs I've had, and when I came across this, it was like, well, first was the relationship, and then it's like, wow, this has got so many options for upgrades, and so I just started in on it and just started upgrading, and then I got more and more and more involved, and then I moved away from yoga and what I was doing into this full time pretty quickly. So, and then it's just a work in progress for me. It's we kind of say I do the outside and he does the inside of the bottle, but we're crossing over everywhere. I muse him, he muses me. There's so many elements of both of us in them now. It's just magical.
Yeah, as again, it's a beautiful fusion of that soulmate path of like you're both powerful, amazing people in your own right, but together you're actually co-creating something that is even beyond yourselves in a way. It's like this is a legacy. These products are leaving a legacy. They're leaving an imprint, and a beautiful, positive, benevolent imprint on the planet, not just on every individual that purchases them and that uses them, that benefits from being spritzed or oiled or having drops infused at any of the ceremonies and the gatherings that you go to, that or that you hold yourselves. It's the imprint in that frequency, in that collective frequency and energy. And I think, Adrian, I'd love you to explain to people how, where your journey started with this, because as I said, I was just putting a few bits of oils and bits and pieces in a bottle and spritzing it, and it was my intention of wanting it to help people, and that worked to a degree. But you've done many years, and this is what I love about your products too, because I've tried pretty much everything else that's on the market, and I can tell anyone watching this that there is absolutely nothing that compares in integrity from start to finish. That's what I love about you guys as well. Like, it's not just eco-friendly or conscious for a part of the process, it's all the way through, from where you source and how you grow to how you package things and send them to people. You polish and finish and complete everything. So kudos to you, because that is just, the integrity is just unwavering there. And from knowing you guys, as I know now over the years as well, that's just a natural extension of who you are. But the journey that got you to this space, Adrian, like the rituals and the ceremonies, I mean, I've only sort of spoken to you a few times about that, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you can't divulge because it's private in ceremony, but how does one, I mean, you're not just someone that mixes plant essences and oils, you're a full-on spirit plant shaman. How does one get to that process, to that stage of evolution, and obviously constantly growing as well for the rest of your life? But to this point, what drew you to this, or who drew you to this?
I feel it's my almost infatuation with the magnificence of what plants, flowers, and nature itself really show us a huge reflection of what's going on inside and outside of us. Yeah, sitting in divine communion with the language is it's the innocence, the vulnerability, which you go into an altar, for myself, go into an altar state as I listen to the poetic verses and the voice of a plant, it'll tell me, what's happening in the future, what's happening in the past, it's just the flux of being involved. It is like an intimate relationship. It's a romance. You romance a rose, you romance nature. It's happening. We mentioned Tantra before, Tantric by nature is this beauty above you, below you. It's all around you, and that, that sort of gives you a real, I don't know, a look in on higher dimensional health, Higher dimensional health to me is something I always valued. I knew there was more than just the say herbalism, even though I love the practice, esoteric herbalism and flower essence medicines, plant medicines. I feel like bridging everything like this together is just creates something potent. But I started on flower farms. I used to take care of flower farms, usually only commercial, gerberas and roses and whatever's in your florist, But all the whilst, you're reading the language on, the evolution of how a plant comes into its being, its fullness, because it's very much symbolic of what we go through, We flower and we wilt sometimes, then we come back to life, and it's just, to me, it's like looking in the mirror,
Yeah. That's a real gift to have that, because I think majority of people love nature and we love plants. I mean, who doesn't like to stop and smell a rose or a gardenia? It's one of my favorite scents as well. I mean, everyone appreciates a beautiful garden, a well-kept garden, and flower, being given a bunch of flowers, those sorts of things. It's like this innate connection that humans have, this appreciation of nature, which, that harks back probably, through our ancestral lines as well, of course, when we were relying, of course, on plants as medicine. We didn't have, big pharmaceutical companies, for example, that were there, and we didn't need that. We just, the original peoples of whichever country would go out and source the herb or the plant, or, and you can speak to this as well, more about obviously than I do, the different parts, or whether it's the petal or the stem or the stamen or the seeds, they all those different components of, and how they vary from plant to plant, would all have different medicinal properties. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I'm for myself, I'm attracted to plants like the lotus. It's a full food source, as well as its energetic properties, spiritual properties. I'm drawn to that. Like the seed itself is like the seed of knowledge. And the flower itself is that's more the fire element, so it's connected to the cosmos. So you sort of like which has the astral and the elemental influences. These two are like the access and assess myself, and listening to what divulges from that. But the plant medicines, there's medicines in every plant on the planet, really. And they always turn up, and
when you need them.
Just when you need them.
Yeah. And that old saying is, and my gardener actually pulled me up a few months ago saying, because I said, I'll just take out those weeds. And he's like, there's no such thing as a weed, Denby. It's just a plant out.
Yay!
He's a good gardener.
I'm like, okay.
He's the best gardener, hire him.
And I had them totally differently from that point on.
I've had two stories of that. One is a friend who worked closely with Bill Mollison, and she has the same opinion. There's no weed. Every plant has a purpose and a use, and Mother Nature's so much smarter than we are. And and it's always correcting itself. And I mean, if you're a gardener, you know, it's like you put a plant here and it withers, and you put it there, it sprites up again, and the seeds will grow there but not there. And I remember watching a documentary recently, and the guy basically wanted to bring back the land in New Zealand. And there's this bush that grows in New Zealand that the farmers hate because it just takes over. And he said, I'm just going to let nature work its magic. And so he let it go, and it took over more. But then what happened is all the seedlings of the trees were protected from the birds and grew under that bush. And then they were strong enough that they could grow beyond the bush and not be attacked. And then once they grew a certain height, the bush died off in the shade, and then he had a forest. So it's like, that was just perfect example that there is no bad plant. There is no weed. Nature really does know best. But yeah, we're often letting it go and pulling it back and throwing in chemicals. And so we're getting in the way again.
Trimming it into hedges that look like, you know, shape of, you know, cactuses and pigeons and giraffes and stuff like that to make it look, you know, acceptable or pretty. On the topic of weed and you know, using plants or abusing plants in certain ways, I mean, we've spoken before. I love you guys to explain this. The 4 main plants that have actually been abused, 3 most definitely, and 1 that we are suspecting has the potential to be abused by Western culture. Certainly tobacco, certainly coffee, the traditional name for it, which is this is coffee, isn't it? It's just a coffee plant. Let me just check that. And cacao as well, and cannabis, weed. So let's speak to those, because obviously when the human abuses a plant, it's about the human, not the plant. I mean, the plant have very different powerful medicinal properties, and of course they can there's different levels of toxicity, and it comes down to knowing how you're using, again, as the original peoples would have known. If you just have 1 leaf of this plant, then it will kill any bacteria or whatever's in your system. But if you have 2, it can actually make you really sick, all those sorts of different things. Or if you have the stem of this plant and not of this other one, then that can, or you blend them together, that can be really healing and hallucinogenic, or it can kill you. There's a fine line between things like that. Let's speak to the 2 main ones. First of all, cannabis, the abuse of the cannabis plant, and what the positive properties and offerings are of her in comparison to what we've seen obviously eventuate within most societies around the world.
Well, I guess what we were talking about earlier was the shamanic viewpoint of that. And so when shamans talk about ingesting plants and going on a journey with that plant, there's the physical aspect that's changing your physical body. But what you're doing is, when you go on these journeys, you're merging with and being influenced by the spirit of the plant. And that's what is affecting your spirit and opening you up to those spiritual dimensions. And so the same thing happens, but it's just at a less conscious level when we are drinking coffee or smoking or ingesting our plants, is that we are taking this being into our body on the physical, and it is affecting, think of coffee that we drink, or tea, or mate, which we prefer. There's this stimulation effect that occurs in the physical, but we're so in the 3D, most of us, that we don't realize the subtlety of how it's affecting in the spirit level. And so I think of like a Chinese tea ceremony, where you are refining your senses with each cup over hours of sitting with tea, is you start to finesse, because you're on the same plant. Like if anyone's done a detox and you journey on a juice, or journey on a food, or go on a water fast and reintroduce a food, you feel the effect of that so dramatically in the body. Contraction, expansion, all of that sort of stuff. And with the Chinese tea ceremony, same thing. It's like we're refining the experience of that plant. And so what we were speaking of earlier was just this nature's so generous, just keeps giving and giving and giving. Look at the cracks in the concrete, and it just keeps coming. Look at the trees that we chop down, and it's suddenly a bush again. It's like nature will just keep giving. And that's something that I've really come to appreciate and realize is how much she keeps giving.
Mm.
But then we abuse. And so it's when you go on these sacred journeys or even a tea ceremony and stay in this refined state, you start to refine your subtlety and your the dimension that you're traveling in with this plant, so that you can start communing with that in your body. And that's where the magic happens. That's where the messages come. That's where you feel the physical, but as you refine more, you can move into this altered state and receive the messages. And that's very much what people are doing in plant ceremony. They're receiving the messages for awakening.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 3D, we're often just there, just cutting and slashing and burning and drinking and abuse. And that spirit isn't recognized.
Yeah.
So it's something that I've watched shamans really start to acknowledge, contemporary shamans, and start to bring awareness to is, let's come back to the sacred with these plants. And when you bring this plant into your body, yes, it's the physical, but the spirit's there. So to acknowledge the spirit of the plant and be more conscious about how you bring it in, so that you're working, it's a harmonious, I can't think of the word right now, but
Symbiotic.
a what?
Symbiotic. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Symbiotic. That's working. You're working together because the plant is working and experiencing you just as you are experiencing it. Yeah. But if you're unconscious and just slamming it down and whatever you're doing, there's an abuse element there, and you won't meet the magic. You won't receive the depth of expression and message that you can.
Yes.
So it changes. And a story I've heard is that this abuse can happen, and then what happens is the plant cuts itself off from you. So it cuts off the ability. So Adrian has this incredible ability to receive the messages from the flowers, and he'll hear them. And he'll go out, if you haven't seen that one for a couple of days, and then boom, there's a message there. There's a flower blooming. There's a whatever it is. So he hears them talking to him, and the abuse cuts that off. And imagine when you abuse someone, they just shut their door to you.
Yeah.
And so by coming in with this respectful, prayerful request to serve each other, it opens the door for them to message you. But if you just keep abusing it, they're going to shut that. And so I see this becoming more and more important to people, and more of an important message is to come back into ceremony with tobacco, with marijuana, but even cacao. There's so many cacao ceremonies flooding the market, and there's this question of, how much is it a money ticket, and how much is it really an honoring and really sacred to meet this plant and heal what we've done to it in the past.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and I think it comes down to the integrity and the level of experience of those people running those sorts of gatherings as well, because it might be a lovely, relaxing and uplifting opportunity to gather women together for full moon circles and use that, and that's all valid and beautiful, lovely intentions. But there's, especially with ayahuasca, cacao and ayahuasca are completely different, although it can be just as powerful in different ways. Being able to hold space for people as they navigate all those shifts within their bodies with those dialogues with the plants when they've ingested them to those levels too is very important. So the level of experience that Adrian has, obviously, and have been doing this for many decades, is very different to someone who's just done a couple and they're doing it with their friends, etc. As beautiful as that intention is. And certainly we've seen that with the massive trend of ayahuasca in the last couple of years. It just like flooded through the yoga community, for example, and everyone was just like doing it every weekend, and it became a trend. And tobacco, as you say, most definitely. The tobacco, there's probably very little actual tobacco in a cigarette now. There's probably more chemicals and additives and all sorts of other things than there actually is tobacco leaf now, yeah? Because when we've done ceremony, and when I've participated in ceremonies as well with that, it's a completely different taste and smell and sensation where you just go, oh my God, is that tobacco? Because we're so used to smelling the cigarette version of that, that the unadulterated pure version is, it's still strong. It's probably not going to be fantastic for you to sit there and chew and spit out or ingest on an everyday sort of basis, but most definitely each one of them has their own energy and message, as you say, and experience to share, and putting us in that space.
Lost in that.
Yeah.
It's lost. It's, I mean, the analogy that comes to me is a pasteurized, preservative-filled, stored juice in your fridge compared to a fresh apple straight from the tree, or even a juiced apple in your, in your slow juicer. There's medicine in that versus the chemical treatment and the poisons and the storage and the staleness. And if anyone's journeyed, I mean, the floorboards are still alive. There's life in energy. If we go back to the Vedic teachings or the Buddhist teachings, everything is conscious. It's not until you journey like that or you go into deep meditations that you can relate to that. So the juice in the fridge is still, there's an energy there. But as you said, when you sit, I've had a tobacco ceremony where I've had tobacco blown over my body, and like a tobacco reading where they read the smoke. And the experience of that is profound. I can feel the energy of the plant, and there's messages and relatability that's going on that I absolutely do not experience when I'm sitting next to someone who's smoking a cigarette. So it's completely different. It's bastardized and manipulated.
There's something in your body that just instantly goes, like, I can smell a cigarette like 500 miles away because I'm so sensitive to that, and it just is so toxic. Even if it's just the smallest amount of a whiff of a current in the air, that I can still smell it 5 blocks down the road. I watched this great, just fortuitously found it on Netflix, a docuseries last week called The Last Shaman.
Oh yes, I've seen that.
Have you seen it? The young guy with depression. I can't think of his name, James or something. Anyway, so it's his story about trying to heal his depression, and he goes into the jungle, and the story of he's searching for. He's discovered that he's heard about ayahuasca and plant medicine, how they can help people with all sorts of ailments. And so he takes a small film crew or friend with a camera, basically, and goes looking for the right shaman. Of course, he has a few hiccups along the way. He gets taken on a few little, interesting diversions with people who are not, because it's a huge business over there, as you see. It's just like they're selling it in these bottles on the street, and it's not good quality. People are dying, like literally dying from these ceremonies. And, shaman is not necessarily, someone calling themselves that is not actually necessarily a shaman. And he ends up finding this great guy who's out in the middle of nowhere, and then they say in the film as well that the real shamans, the real healers have all moved out. You don't see them advertising in the towns, and you've got to go and investigate and probably be in the right place at the right time to hear the right words from the right person that says, oh, I know so and so. So he ends up having this amazing journey. And I think he stayed for like, it was 170 days, whatever that is. Now, quite a few months. He went through and he was video recording all of his experiences after first couple of weeks, not every day. Then after that, when he was really accelerating in his healing, absolutely fascinating to watch. And then the tragedy was at the end, this beautiful little shaman with his family who had next to nothing, and you could tell that he was like yourself, Adrian, just like had this beautiful relationship with the plant, with ayahuasca, with madre, and that was his purpose and his mission, and that was all he wanted to do. And I don't even know if he was charging this guy, or if he was, it would have been like next to nothing, because it wasn't about money for him. It was about healing the individuals that came with these issues. And something about the charity that was sponsoring the area, or that was connected to their farm or their retreat place, ended up coming in and accusing him of doing something they didn't do. And he got kicked out, and him and his family got kicked out of the jungle and sent into the city. And he ended up working, I was in tears watching it, he ended up working as a fucking mechanic, like fixing cars. And he's one of the most wise, amazing, giving, beautiful people on the planet. And he literally had healed this young man, or this young man had healed him with his help. And it was just such an incredible journey when you see that. We need to see more of those stories and more of those documentaries, most definitely. But it's interesting this is why it's so important to have more people know about you, Adrian, because you're not working with ayahuasca on that level, but what you're doing, as I said before at the beginning of this chat, is that you're leaving an imprint in the psyche of people through this relationship that you have with plants. It's like you're the conduit between the spirit realm of the plants and into our generation, the next generation, into mothers, people trying to conceive and having babies, to the elderly, to people with illnesses. I mean, all the different ingredients that you have. Is there 22 in the range now? Because I know you were changing and mixing a few. Is it 20 or 22?
22 signatures, and we've probably got about 13, I think 13 essences. Yeah.
We will.
Yeah,
So,
we will do tonics. Yeah.
So it covers it. You cover everything. I mean, this is just one celestial, which is absolutely divine. And you've got all the, you've got the flower essences and the essential oils. And let's talk a little bit about, without giving away all your secrets, of course.
Yeah.
How you come to create something like this finished product, which is all a beautiful design, of course, by Izabella, and channeled and imprinted, and worked together with that, of course. But all that side of admin stuff, beautiful. Just to recognise there's behind every powerful man, there's a more powerful woman, of course.
True.
True.
Yeah.
So what's the process of? There's ritual and there's layers to creating each one. How do you discern which essences to go with which oils, for example? Is that something the plants tell you?
Yeah, I do. I listen to their I listen. At first I have no real plan. I leave it totally to spirit. So that's about entering the dream field or the dream state, and it might take however many communions with different plants, and then a period of time, a story will develop, so many chapters to each one. But and then they will configure to me, and then just how it's meant to be. So I'll do a lot of scribing. Sometimes wake up that witching hour, and you just do a little, take little notes and go, oh yeah, and back to sleep. I'll take the essence or the particular, that medicine of that plant, and I'll go into a further subconscious. But it all happens differently. There is a similarity on the thread, though, the golden thread that sort of winds all this together.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's just a constant giving of what plants, just a constant giving, and flowers is, it's a beauty language. It really is. I mean, my Izabella and myself went to Moorea, which is little island off Tahiti. So we went there, and then that's really the island of flowers where my grandmother's from. So did a lot of exploration there, really sat with the land. It's, I think Drumvala and Wichisitic said it's the heart center of all the Pacific Islands, So we rode horseback there, pretty romantic stuff. And around the 8 mountains, which is 8 tribes. Their totem is the octopus, which
Wow.
That usually the powerful different layers, like the totems, the astral, the planetary positioning at the time, the time on the calendar we're given, and whether everything's in bloom. Going through that cycle within myself, but it's just I'm in awe every day. I'm pretty much in awe of this work, this body of information, and how it actually helps the fuller expression of other souls through the ingestation of this this sort of multi-level, multi-dimensional sort of plant medium,
You're a custodian. You're a custodian of that information and that wisdom, and that's such a privilege space to be in, and then to be able to use that as, you know, your natural gifts. I mean, inherited, you know, ancestral, mother or father were into this, or you just as a kid just fell into it, or love was always drawn to it?
I think my mum used to get showered with flowers I just pick out of everyone's garden. I didn't know to ask then. I just
so you started off stealing flowers, yeah.
But yeah, that was really my grandfather and my grandmother, the two sort of elders on my father's side, which, you know, she was into natural perfumery and communing with flowers, and and the other was he was an engineer, but he was also a diviner, and he used to write maps and things like this for different councils. But that was all about the ley lines energy in the earth, So I feel like I took it upon myself just to embody those things of these two characters, you know, and then sit in the balance of it, and then how it sort of all blends into a medicine medium. Yeah,
it's beautiful. And I mean, as I said before, the thing that I love and respect about your work, for both of you, your work, is that everything is completed from start to finish. Like, speak to us about the you know, the sourcing of, you know, how important that is, whether you're growing your own, or what happens when you can't grow your own plants for obvious reasons. They don't grow in Australia, or they, you know, you need them to be growing at different times like that. How do you connect with people that are on the same wavelength, that have the same level of integrity as yourself, to develop those relationships? Because I imagine they'd have to, obviously, to maintain that level of quality, energetic integrity as well.
Sure.
You'd have to be really hand-picking who is in your team in that way.
Through spirit, right?
Yeah.
Spirit delivers a lot of people.
Yeah, it's the guy, being so invested that the stewardship of spirit within is guided. It does have to be absolutely the epitome of integrity on purification anyway, you know, the purified versions on every level to because you know, like we are fortunate, we live in the forest here, and we grow all our plants. I get to see how they're you know, their characteristics anyway, you know. You get to read them, and they get to read me, and we get to say hello and have a jolly conversation over a mate every morning. So you know, that said, I think, you know, the heart is always keeping score, and it's taking log of the whole ecosystem inside and out. This way, when I walk around my garden, I'm being read and they're reading me. So if you've got a loving relationship like that, you sort of you're listening to the invisible a lot louder than you realize, you know?
Yeah, they're holding you to account in a loving way of, like, keeping you in that
for sure. Yeah, you don't want to be whipped by the asparagus plant when you walk past.
I just
stabbed by the roses sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've got forearm scars. Like, well, actually they're gone now. But anyway,
you're on the deck one morning having your mate, and there's a vine sort of coming down and going.
This wraps around the crown. You know? A little bit of Caesar complex going on.
Around your tips you over. Yeah, that's too funny. I was just thinking before, when we mentioned the ones that are traditionally being, you know, abused or manhandled, I suppose. What about even though it's not it comes from the plant, it's made from grapes. So what about wine, alcohol, because that's coming from the vine?
Yeah.
Could we classify that as a plant medicine in a way that's been abused as well?
I think so. You know, sure. I mean, the origins of creation, where, you know, the Greeks would you know, stamp a big dance in a wine barrel, you know, under their bare feet. I feel that's like what they call giving soul to the wine, because it's the soles of your feet, you know. So that's a whole different sort of it's a different drop, you know.
Yeah, well, that's a ritual. That's the ritual as well, and that's putting the intention and the love into it, where it's mass manufactured now, and you've lost all that integrity.
Yeah, because ceremony is always watching you, you know, and there's no skipping the process at all.
Yeah.
And even what comes to me is how plants were put in alcohol to be held as a tincture for medicine. But now going forward, the medicines retreated and the alcohol became prominent. So we've because alcohol and coffee is great potentiators, sending the medicine deeper into the body. But the fact that we've swung the balance more to the addiction, and that's something that came up before, even with the cacao. It's like I hear people say cacao ceremony, you see the lies light up, and it's like, yes, it's the addiction that I'm hearing of the cacao rather than the ceremony. But whatever gets people in. So, you know, if that's what, oh yes, chocolate, yum. And then they end up in a ceremony where they become conscious of ritual. And that it's because ultimately it's to be present. Again, coming back to Japanese tea ceremony, you're becoming present to go within. And the plant is coming in to make you present to yourself. So there's inner and outer focus that's going on. And so if you can take from that ritual, that then when you come to your plate, or you go to your garden, or you even go to the grocery store and you're picking, it's like we're such complex creatures. Our eye knows which carrot or which avocado is the one for me. You know, we fossick through and we pick, no, not that one, not that one. What's the difference between a lot of these? But our body knows it's that one. There's a message in that for us. So just to bring conscious awareness to the way that we are with all plants, with food is such a huge one.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So don't just go looking for the cleanest carrot, for example. Like sometimes the weird ones, you know, you get those ones that look like they've got little arms or look like little penises coming off them. Stumpy little things. Like I normally go for those ones because I feel sorry for them and I think, oh, no one else is going to want you, but I love you and I appreciate your, you know, different character and your beauty. And then definitely it's the consciousness. The same with doesn't matter what sort of style you start with for yoga, as you know, being a yoga teacher as well. It's like people just get into the groove and then eventually they'll move past, hopefully at some point, the fixation with asana, and they'll move into the breath work and they'll move into the meditation space and they'll move into the deeper connections and they'll learn about the philosophy, etc. So if they come to yoga, you know, through a gym or through, you know, whatever other sort of more dynamic sort of activity, however it is presented, then at least they're doing it and they're getting into that. The same thing with the plants. But it's again, it's awareness, isn't it, of just being mindful of like, well, what do I need? And I suppose that comes down to, you can feed it into intuition, people coming, you know, connecting to that space inside themselves that has the ability to communicate with animals. I've got my dog snoring on the floor there, you know, Blaze, you definitely speak to him, he speaks to you guys. You know, speaking to the trees, hugging the trees, and you know, we've done plenty of that together, and lying on the earth and speaking to the grass and listening to the birds and just opening yourself up to all those dialogues that are going on around us constantly. And that's what I find, because I use all your products, as you know, in my yoga classes and also with my students. And the minute I spray them with something, or let's talk about Medicina for a moment, because I get to that. I can see, because I see energy, I can see their energy shift straight away. And afterwards, when they come out of Shavasana, for example, out of the treatment, they're just like, oh, wow, the minute you used whatever that scent was, it just went through, it just permeates through their whole soul and system. And again, because of all the different frequencies and how they're in a receptive space, the medicine literally can get through to where it needs to go. And you've told me some amazing stories about this one, Medicina, which is one of your latest beautiful creations. Hopefully people can see that there. This is just like God in a bottle. That just came to me then. This is God
in the bottle.
This is
God molecule.
I'm sure God won't mind me saying that. You know, it's Jesus in a bottle. This is the most incredible product, because I've had, and you can share, because there's one amazing story, you know, that you guys have had with this. But every time that I have used this with myself or somebody else, it's been the only thing that has been able to, if they've been on a particularly out there journey, it's been the only thing that's been able to bring them back and to help them feel that alignment and come back into full embodiment. So I don't know what you've got in this stuff. I don't know if people could smell that on my palms. It's just incredible. I just want to tip it over my head. It's the most amazing ritual spirit cleanse. So this is, I'll get you to tell me a little bit about this first, and then maybe share one of those stories if you want to. But you know, the story behind this and the creation of this, what was the intention of Medicina in particular in the difference to all the other beautiful things that you offer?
It started because we had a lot of shamans who were working with our creations, and they'd say, can you make an agua de Florida? And I'd go, yeah, okay, yeah. And I just didn't connect with it. And for about 3 years, I'd have this occasional question. And finally someone prompted me again, and I went, you know what, I'm going to go look this up. And so because it's agua de Florida is used on ceremonial tables all over the world.
Yep.
And I didn't really think any different of it. So I went into research, and then I found a story that 200 years ago, the flavor of perfume was rich, oily scents. And then a fashion came in where perfume went from these rich oils that you would dab into an alcohol base that you would spray or cologne splash. Yep. And two Jewish I don't even know, product creators, I don't even know their background of what they did, but they saw this coming and to America, and they said, let's get ahead of the curve and we will create the first one in America. And so they created a unisex cologne, which they named Agua de Florida, which is water of Florida. And the reason they named it the Florida was there was a myth at the time that there was a spring in Florida that would give the fountain of youth. And so sex and youth sell, right? So that was very clever marketing. But also this lovely name that came from, you know, across the seas of South America. They had it made in South America. And this is where I'm putting 2 and 2 together. So don't quote me on this, but I'm assuming because it was made inexpensively in Peru and in South American countries. I know that shamans will use alcohol. You'll often see them put it in the mouth and spit over a person, over an altar, into the air to cleanse. And it's said that the sweet alcohol, so they will cleanse the negative spirit, and the sweet alcohol will then attract the good spirits. So Agua de Florida, perfect for shamanic circles. It's sweet to attract, you know, the good, and it's alcohol to repel the bad. So I'm assuming that it snuck its way into circles in South America because it was made so inexpensively. And then 200 years later, we are there, you know, with this tool, and suddenly I felt this, oh,
I've been had.
I kind of been had. Like, what? It's just a cologne, but and sacred is sacred. It's what we attach to it. Yeah. Everything is an agreement, correct? And so no real judgment of it, but there was this letdown of it's just that. Yeah. And so anyway, I thought, well, we can do better than that. Because the criticism we got, some people have said, I was just away on a retreat at a 50th birthday, and somebody said, oh, I can't stand the smell. I could smell the synthetics in it. And at its heart, I think it has a beautiful base, like rose water, and there are essential oils, but it's a cheap alcohol. It's a plastic bottle. There's synthetic colors and flavors in there as well. And this is what they're smelling. And then tasting, if you're into homeopathics and how sensitive our mouth is. And my friends who are shamans who are doing this, not that I expect them to do with Medicina, but yeah, not good.
No.
So I just started.
It doesn't taste good. It leaves strong.
And not that essential oils in this realm can taste good either. They're very bitter. They're, you know, but so I started going to work, and I started receiving, because I've been very much been led by my mind for most of my life, but I've, in partnership with Adrian, I'm now into more of a receiving place. And so I just started receiving these downloads on it. And it just felt that it needed to be really broad. It needed to be international. It needed to be energetically available to anyone. And what came to me, the story was a Peruvian shaman holding space in New York City to a bunch of Europeans. And so I wanted to be able to access where the shaman's from, where his medicine's from, from that land mass, where you're sitting in America from that land mass, the plants from there, and then where those people are from, or where they're going to, or what they're healing from an ancestral line somewhere else, that you could access all lands. And so I got that the flower essences need to be broad, but Adrian got, let's do it 88. That was his kind of download, is this 88 flowers, power number there, and into infinity. And then we've been collecting waters from all around the world for about 5 years. We did some shamanic mentorship work by Valan and Ajar that you recently interviewed, and really got the importance of water and honoring water. And so we've started receiving water and gifting water. Whenever someone was traveling, I would say, you know, let me gift you this water from 5 countries or 5 lands in Australia. Can you gift it to ceremony? Can you gift it to the rivers? Because one drop of conscious water is affecting the whole. And so we're creating this web of water, and then they would collect and bring it back to us. And I wish I'd listed everywhere it's come from. It's from Lords and the Red and White Spring in England, and Niagara Falls, and the Dakota Pipeline ceremony. When that was all heating up, there were beautiful ceremonies. So everywhere in the world, Maria, New Zealand, so many places, we have this water that also goes in there. So there's these species, flowers from all over the world, and then these waters from all over the world. So, and then layers of frequency and gold ormus and intention. And the result is a story, if you want to hear it. Yeah, it's super powerful product, super powerful, tool, spiritual tool.
Yeah. Definitely, as I said, you know, God in a bottle.
God in a bottle.
And how amazing that you got all of those essences and all those waters together before the proverbial hit the fan last year. Like, I can't see that happening from this point forwards for however long. So that was a real blessing. Somebody up there was pulling strings to help, you know, you create this body of work that's going to sustain and grow and amplify, and that can, you know, it's going to shape shift as you guys change as well with your relationship. And the singing aspect of the plants too. I mean, tell us the story first, Izzy, and then I'll get you to talk about the singing. Because the other day when I was with you guys and you had that hooked up to one of the cacti, I came home and I talked to my one that you gifted me, and I had a little chat. I said, I've just been listening to one of your brothers or sisters singing, and it's just, I hope you can do that for me one day. And it just sort of sat there and looked at me, but whatever, you're crazy. But I need the right nodules, obviously, to connect into that. But tell us the story about Mendocino, and then share a little bit about the music, the singing of the plants.
Yeah, so it was Mother's Day, and I'm not a mother, but I felt like this was such a beautiful gift. Is we had a friend, because in a way I feel like a mother to this one, because so much of it birthed through me. A friend called, and we'd gifted him a bottle, and he had three shamans from South America with him doing a sweat lodge, and he's a shaman in his own way himself. So, and they had a men's journey with about 12 or 14 people, and one of the guys had done really strong medicine, I think in Peru 2 weeks prior, and he'd done toad, and basically the heat obviously released that within his cells again, and the 3rd round he decided to sit out the 4th, and they all went in and they came out, and he moved away. He said, I just need some time, and he moved away, and they watched him, and then they watched as he went into toad, like full cathartic stuff, and they watched him for about 20 minutes and said, okay, it's now time to bring him out. And so he had 4 shamans around him trying to bring him out for, he said, 40 to 60 minutes. Wow. So they drummed, they rattled, they sang, they body worked, they did everything they could, and none of them could bring him out. And then one of the shamans said, brother, have you got an agua de Florida? And he said, I've got something better. And he went into his house and he grabbed medicina, and they dropped a few drops on his body, and within 5 minutes he was walking. Yeah, wow. And I was crying when he told me that story. It's like, I mean, I love what we create and offer, but to know just how much of a difference that they make, And maybe Agua de Florida might have done the same thing. I don't know, but this is what did it. And I was so moved and so honored that something that we've created is of such service to people. So I really felt really humbled to hear that story. It was a beautiful Mother's Day present.
Yeah. Oh, no, most definitely incredible. And you know, there's 6 or 7 different fragrances in the Florida range as well. Like there's a lavender one, the one that they use, and I've got an old one of it as well because I used to use that. Is the least offensive one to have in your mouth to spit out. Like I've tried some of the other flavors and it's just like, whoa. And I think that's a big point to make with you guys, is that you're not making perfumes. You're not making colognes. These are sacred perfume type of things. But I mean, this is, and you are sort of, there's an aspect of marketing that goes towards, you know, bridging that whole arena or that mindset for people of saying that these are actually, you can, like every time I have it in my handbag and I spritz myself with one of these things, guaranteed to have a couple of people turn around and go, wow, what's that? What perfume are you wearing? And I go, well, I'm not actually wearing a perfume. I'm wearing, so I give them my whole spiel.
Thank you.
That's all right. I can't help it. It just comes out. And it's like so much more than that. And I think that's a lot of, I mean, and a perfume, that was what I was doing back in the day. I was just spritzing a nice thing with essential oils and things on people, made them smell good, made them relax. That was a perfume type of thing. What you're doing is completely different. It's next level sacred. I don't even know if perfumery is the right word to use. You've probably got your own dialogue with it, Adrian, as well, of the sacred scents and the sensual scent aspect of that. And again, the medicinal component of that, which is affecting all different layers of yourself.
They are medicine tools for transition and transformation.
There we go.
It's spiritual hygiene, really. We have, you know, our auric layers extend out from up to 1 meter, you know, and there's so much debris and misinformation and all sort of construed, you know, like build-up and stagnation that sticks in the aura. We really need to constantly keep ourselves clean. You'd have a bath, you'd do the same thing if you had a I don't know, confrontation with someone. You go, shit, I'm going to have a shower or a bath, you know. Whereas you got the medicine of all these plants, which tap you into sort of a higher self, a higher perspective of what that interaction is, what's going on in life, you know. But especially Medicina, with all, like with the waters, I call it the aqua vitae, the vitality of every spring on every continent of the planet has been put in this guy, you know. So it's sort of like, it allows you to tap into the light, almost like the light web of the planet. And it's a planet, you know. So in saying that, like we'll go to sacred, we'll travel 1 million miles to go to a sacred circle or a stone circle, where whatever there is a spring close by or a present there, we put in this one, you know. So that sort of feed that you can tap into if you want to go into that intuitive part. That's why I would drown myself in it almost. Not drowning, but yeah.
Well, we've had that. We've gifted. I remember. I've had a couple actually that have gone a gift. One was for you, wasn't it? Didn't we gift you a bottle and it went out and cracked all over the land with some tribal elders? And I've had that happen another time, and it's like it's wanting to make it, you know, to the ground to cleanse the area. But in the waters too, I mean, the importance of it is bringing awareness to the water.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what it's allowing you to do that, but it's also what's going on in the outer, what's going on in the inner world of your own waters. How are you holding your frequency and vibration and love for yourself that's affecting your inner water body and your health, but then what's happening on the outside too? What are we doing for the waters? And I see that people have crystal gridded the world, and they, you know, like crystal grid your house. You have this crystal in the center, and then you put the intention and all the crystals come back to that crystal and grid around the house. I feel like, because there's many people doing water work, we're just one, and it's water gridding the planet so that we can bring these sacred waters to commune. I mean, water's the most misunderstood element on the planet. It's still there's the idea of the fourth phase of water, and people talk about water cleverly created humans so it could walk around the planet. It's a magical element. So one that we really need to bring consciousness to is how are we looking after our water? And thank goodness, I think this whole last year has come to really wake people up to how important it is that we come back to the simple truths, the simple importance, simplicity of life. And focus on what really matters, what's going to nourish us, and therefore what's going to nourish the planet. So these are all just beautiful tools to bring you into that simplicity. And plants, they work on another energetic plane. So it's like to have these tools to slow us down, to listen to our own hearts, and to listen to the plant's messages for us. That's our hope is with Pure Heart, is that we're doing that. We're just bringing ritual and stillness in a beautiful way. And if I had this vision that if a woman in Double Bay or some city in a rich area who is just loving the beauty of it and spraying it in her car and just loving the beauty of it, but in the background these essences and these frequencies, she's not putting all the chemicals in with a synthetic perfume that's affecting all hormonal balance and all of that. So she's taking out the poison, but in the positive, in the background, is the water elements affecting her auric field and the frequency of the flowers. It's all going in. And when she walks in and sees her husband or her children, she may not even buy it for that reason. It just smells good. So she is using it as a perfume. I've had women do that, but in the background, it's subtly working its magic and opening consciousness and making her feel better and all the things. So
I've just had a great little marketing idea. Remind me when we finish this to tell you. I'll tell you off recording. It comes to mind when you say that. But the water's weaving in the background on all those different layers of self. That's such a beautiful gift. Let's finish with the singing, because that is such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful experience to hear that, and how every plant, of course, has its own voice, its own tone. So can you explain a little bit about how that actually works to people that are listening, going, how can a plant sing, for goodness sake?
Yeah. Its original machine, which was I think developed as a lie detector. And plants won't lie, so you're pretty safe there. But then
it could be tricky though.
There's a cunningness to plants sometimes. But it's they converted this into a biofeedback system where you attach to different electrodes to the plant, where it chooses. It runs on impulse. And the heartbeat of what the plant's feeling, thinking, and then it gives a selection. So the plant has got a selection of about 12 to 24 bars, and it will play. It's very baritone like, and it'll choose what it wants. And every plant, if you listen, is different. It does different. It's got long pauses or sort of a
picks the high notes or the low,
or have a long drone like a yidaki, there's woo, 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 and then it'll just sort of it'll play around. So it's really like, but very receptive. I mean, Izabella said she was gonna
so I was
talking about that rose.
So basically, it has a choice of 12 notes. All its choices is which of the 12 notes and when am I silent? So which note and when do I not play anything? That's kind of the choice that it has. But we were going to an event, and Adrian had the rose, one of our roses, hooked up to the plant. She was singing beautifully, and I was actually going to join my father on a rare event and go to my brother's grave. And I thought it'd be nice to take a flower. And I sort of stepped out the back with this thought, and she just stopped dead. She stopped singing, went silent. And I went, whoa, no. She had one rose, you know, this beautiful, beautiful rose that was up by my face. I said, no, not you. I'm not picking you. And I think I ended up having, you know, picking a fallen frangipani or something like that had already fallen to the ground.
Feeling so guilty.
Yes, I'm like, whoa. So anyway, so we then did this event to about 450 people. We participated in this event, and Adrian again had the rose on stage, and he was talking about this story. He was telling this group about the story of how the rose stopped singing when Izabella went to pick a flower. And in that moment, the rose stopped singing. It was like at the story of this whole thing. And there's so many incredible stories from Damanhur, who created this machine. So it was taken, as Adrian said, from a lie detector test that a guy just in the 70s, there's plenty of books about that. But they put it on a plant just as a chance thing, and it started moving all the dials. And then they spent the next 10 or 15 years doing all of these tests on plants with threatening to burn it, threatening to kill it, actually burning it, loving it, sending it love, a bit like a moto with the water tests in Japan. One guy took a plant, went 800 miles back home, and then at certain times would send love to the plant, and they'd read when that happened and time it. And the tests are incredible. And what you come back with is plants are conscious, absolutely conscious. But this is this idea in shamanism is the plants, if you speed plants up on a videotape, they are moving, they are in action, they are defending and attracting. And, you know, we all see plants grow towards the sun. There's this conscious energy coming through them. And so they're recording this through all of these tests. And Damanhur in Italy, amazing community, basically refined this to this musical gadget or tool that shows us this. And you can Google online, there's plenty of people playing music with them. We did a concert with a rose, it was just spectacular. But the stories in Damanhur reading their stuff is the most amazing story of all is that they've gone beyond that, and they've hooked up a whole green room with the watering system, the fresh air, the sunlight, all connected to the plants for them to control those aspects of when to water, when to let in fresh air and close it off. And they've also given them the keys to the front door, and they can control the lock on a door. And what I was told was that there's one guy, they never let him in. It's like,
handy, isn't it?
yeah, is he angry? Was he a lawnmower? I don't know what, but it's like we don't want that guy.
No, don't let my husband in tonight because he's really pissed me off. Plant guard dog on duty.
Yes, exactly. And so when I came across all this information, I mean, I've read several of these books. There's some more contemporary books about the subject as well, and there's so much on YouTube. Oh my God, do I need to be a breatharian? Because I'm eating plants and they're conscious, and there's all these tests with our food as well. And one of the stories that I heard is that they set up the plants in a school room. One was actually, no, I'll tell this other story. They set up plants in an area where they were all going to eat lunch, and they were singing away. And they went to eat this vegetarian lunch or vegan lunch, and all the plants stopped singing. And suddenly it came to them, we haven't done prayer. We haven't done a thank you ritual for the food. And they did that, and they started singing again. And so what they're taking from this is it's about how much gratitude do you have for the generosity of nature, of that plate that's sitting before you. And so many levels can be improved with this. It's that you have that gratitude, you raise your frequency, you raise your awareness. When I go into that gratitude, I open my eyes and the world is brighter and clearer because I've put myself into a higher frequency state. So then when I ingest the food, it's actually going to different levels of healing in my body just to say thank you. So it's not about we can't kill, we can't take, but how do you select? Do you request the plant to give you that flower? And I noticed there are times where, I mean, I'm human. Sometimes I'm rushing and I'm not asking and I'm grabbing, and it resists me.
Mm.
But then okay, hang on a second. And I stop and I move to a different flower, and can I take this for you from you? And it just gives. It just easily gives. So it's just about respect and consciousness and ritual. It really is. It's another spiritual path to our heart and our consciousness, because there's many paths up the mountain. The journey to plants is just another path. It's another mirror of where are you at, because the plants will tell you. And so it's slowing yourself down to feel where they are, to feel where you are. It's a beautiful mirror.
Yeah, beautiful way to end. We're just on the hour, and I couldn't think of a better way to end this beautiful discussion with you than that, Izzy. Thank you for sharing that, sweetheart. It's consciousness and reverence and appreciation and gratitude, and just being, honoring the plant within, honoring the spirit within, honoring the God, the goddess, the divine being that we all are, and extending that to all living creatures. I mean, eventually we'll probably end up, which we probably, don't know how long it'll take, we'll go back to that state where none of us need to eat, because we are just feeding off energy, and we're that highly evolved that we move back to that space. So I remember reading years ago someone saying that the reason that a lot of extraterrestrial or higher galactic beings and races and species look upon the human as being quite still very primal, because we're still actually needing to eat things and put physical food in our bodies, because they just resonate with the vibration, the energy. But that's a whole podcast altogether different.
Yep, 30 years of my life.
Thank you guys so much. Is there a particular product that you want to plug right now, and also just tell people where they can find you, like what websites and things like that? Is there something that you want to highlight? I know I love, obviously, Medicina. I love Immunity as well. That's the other one.
Yes, this one is the beautiful baby. Immunity, that's a new one. That's a whole different realm we've gone into with tonic essences. So again, just keeping well through this whole crazy last year. We've been creating more tincture type, so soaking the plants for the medicinal value, for boosting the immune system. But where we've come from mostly, and where we're going to move to, is the flower essences. So this idea that you can take the flower essences internally as well as spray them around you. So Astral Eye is one that has all the master teacher plants in it. So it's got 6 teacher plants, and then a rose to open the heart. And that's a beautiful one to journey in meditation, in between ceremonial plant journeys, if that's your thing, or even to prepare you for that, because you're working with the astral highest vibration of the plant. So to travel with that realm in your consciousness, in your auric field, in your being before you journey or in between journeys is really beautiful, before you go into the physical of meeting that plant in the cup or however you're taking it. So that's a really beautiful one. Yeah.
Yep, I've used that quite a few times in my own ceremonies and can attest to that most definitely. That's very, very powerful. But there's a softness, there's a gentleness. It's not just like haven't got your claws in the seat and you're hanging on by the skin of your teeth. It's just this beautiful, again, this weaving in this dance, and this pulsation of energy peaking and surging and softening and expanding. It's whatever you're doing, Adrian, keep doing it. Both of you, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Do more of it. We need more of it in the world. How can people find you? How can they find your products?
Look us up on pureheartalchemy.com. We're on Insta as well, Pureheart Alchemy. Facebook, same, Pureheart Alchemy. And check us out. Stay for a while. Feel into very activating artistic images as well. They're meant to where is it? Oh,
right.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's Manifest. That's the one I've been working on. That's one I created in Africa with some tribe there. So
it's beautiful, darling. And there's also, I just mentioned as well, the mermaid breast oil.
Yeah.
Just too. And you guys were telling me about one of the face oils that you are, a blue lotus face oil or body oil or something that you were.
working on?
We'll keep that a little under wraps until we until we release it. But
That's
yeah,
good.
everything is about ceremony. So again, the mermaid breast oil is having ceremony, women connecting with their sensuality, their divine feminine. When I talk to women about it, it's like breast massage. There's so many levels. There's physical level. There's of just congestion and pain relief and circulatory. But then there's accepting yourself, whatever shape you are, like that time. And then there's getting into the level of divine goddess, your sensuality. And there's a whole tantric podcast for you there too about tantric and how important the breast is. So many levels, but yeah, it's just, again, it's how conscious are you in each moment. So if you can make your beauty regime conscious, if you can make your meal conscious, that you just do that 30 seconds of prayer of gratitude before each meal, meditation, how you wake up, conscious sunrise. It's just
appreciate weeds in the garden. Don't pull the weeds out. Talk to them instead and appreciate their role in the garden.
Yes, exactly.
They're all singing.
They're all singing, yeah. Oh, beautiful, guys. So that's just another reason for everyone watching and listening to sign up for your newsletter on your website and to get in touch with these guys because of their new products that are coming out, which are all shush now. But there's going to be plenty.
Just put a blank censored over that bit, right?
Didn't hear that here first, but you don't want to miss out, do you? So get in touch with these guys so you can get the product bit when it first hits the shelves, because you're not going to regret that. It's been wonderful talking to you guys. I love you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And it's been so much fun. Have a beautiful day. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.